All right, so hello everyone, and welcome to Birdview's weekly workshop again. My name is Mishna Tambak, and I will be your host for today's workshop. Our workshop takes place every Tuesday at 1 p.m. EST and 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we cover a different topic each week. You can register for our weekly workshops and other events through our website under the Events tab, or you can use the URL displayed on the screen above. We post a list of all of our topics in advance, so you do have the option to sign up for multiple sessions at once. However, this is our last workshop of the year. We will share the January topics with you within the next 2 weeks, so stay tuned. As always, if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, please feel free to add them in the Q&A chat box or share your ideas through our success email. So in today's session, what we'll do is cover resource planning feature, the module. The demo will be conducted by our product manager, Olga, who has joined us as well. And she's an expert in this area. So she'll walk through on how to effectively use this feature so you can start managing your resources in the new year successfully. And then we'll allocate the last 10 minutes to go over any questions that you may have. So feel free to send in your questions in the Q&A chat box. And then finally, we will go over the details of our webinar at the end of this session. So I'm going to give it back to Olga, who will demonstrate our resource planning module. Olga, over to you.
Hello, thank you, Mishna. Okay, I will start sharing my screen in order to go through resource planning functionality. Okay, so first of all, I would like to navigate you through the menu. So here in our menu, we have this resources section where you will be able to observe planning tab. And in case you're not able to observe it right now, you just need to go to company settings. You need to go to access levels and check whether your users have access to resource planning. So for example, in my account, collaborator user do not have access to resource planning. And in order collaborators see resource planning functionality, you just need to enable this checkbox in company settings right here. There is also one more theme which you can enable for users is management of hard allocations in resource planning. I will go through types of allocations a little bit later, but yeah, there are differences between soft and hard allocations in our system, and some users may have these permissions and some may have not. I mean, permissions for hard allocations creation. So, and once you enabled resource planning for your user, this user will be able to go to resources and observe planning functionality right here as the first tab. So what is the difference between planning and workload functionality? We have this informational tooltip, but the main difference is that workload helps you to manage your resources at the task level, meaning that first of all, you need to create a project, you need to create tasks, you need to assign these tasks to specific people. You also already know, probably estimate hours for these tasks. So you kind of have this all detailed information and you are able to manage and allocate your resources when you have all these details. But of course, in project management, it cannot be all the time that perfect. So sometimes for sure you do not have this detailed information in advance, but you already need to plan your resources. And this is when our resource planning functionality comes to you and may help you. So let's start with creating a new project. I will start right here on the resource planning screen. And for example, I would like to create a project, which I will call, for example, marketing blog posts. And I can also set up start and end dates. Let's assume that it will be just December project for marketing team for December, and I will create this project. Project will appear here immediately on the planning Gantt chart. and you will be able to observe this blue bar, which shows exactly the time period of start and end date of these projects. You can also expand these projects, and you will be able to observe here already assignees which are assigned to this project. My user is Helen, and she is assigned automatically as project manager, but of course you can remove her. And here you can already start adding users, start adding assignees, even though you still do not have this exact specific detailed plan about which I told you before, but still you can already start adding assignees, members to your project. So let's assume that I will need to work with Emily. And also probably I will need to some resource, which I know already that I will need these resources, but right now I do not specific people who will come and help me in this project. So let's assume that I will need analyst, and I will add unnamed resource and accountant. You can also start creating unnamed resource, which is used as a placeholder right here. So for example, content writer. Add content writer, and you can go also in details of a named resource and set up a named resource with job role right here. We also have skills functionality, meaning that you can add as many skills to the resource as possible. So for example, my content writer needs to know English, needs to know German, for example. And I will add the skills and save them right here. In the resource planning, you can display the information in the way you really want and in the way it's really useful to you. That is why, first of all, we have this sorting functionality and columns functionality, meaning that you can display any columns you need to display here and which columns you consider most useful for you. So for example, we can display skills columns. Right now I also have this hours columns displayed, but I will remove them for now. So yeah, here, skills. In terms of skills, sorry, I changed the view and my skills went here. Yeah. So again, in terms of columns, you can manage them in the way you want. You can add as many columns here. You can drag and drop them right there. You can freeze them. You can, again, hide them. I will return them. And for example, I will add scheduled and allocated hours back. And I can also start working with columns and setting up the width to make my screen look more convenient for me. Okay, so we already created a new project. We assumed what kind of resources we need on this project, and we can start actually planning workload of these resources. So for example, I know that I need accountant only by the end of December, only by the end of the project. And I can create allocation for accountant. In order to do it, you just need to go to Gantt view, and you can click Shift plus mouse button to create allocation. But you can also start create allocations right here in the context menu. You just need to click the button Add allocation here, and this pop-up will appear for you. So here you will need to specify start and end dates, meaning you need to specify when do you need this resource start working for you. So for example, as I mentioned, I need this resource by the end of this project. So let's assume it will be 18 December and until the end of project. Then you need to specify allocation percentage or total allocated hours. It means that you need to specify here for how many hours you assume you need this resource in the future. So let's say that I need accountant not 8 hours per day, but for example, just 5 hours per day. So it will be like 80% of working time for accountant. And then goes soft and hard allocations. So what is the difference between soft and hard allocations? Soft allocations are tentative allocation. So right now I'm sitting here, I'm just planning, and I'm not sure whether I really need accountant and whether I really need accountant for this period of time. So I will select soft. But hard allocations are allocations which are confirmed already, and you 100% sure that you will need exactly this user, you will need exactly this person for this period of time, and you kind of show your like desires, your allocations to other resource or project managers, like kind of do not take this person, he is mine for this project. For unnamed resources, of course, you cannot create hard allocations because it's just placeholder, it's unnamed resource. So I will save and create allocation for accountant. Right here, automatically allocated hours column is updated, and we already see that allocated hours are already updated for the project also. And I can start create allocation for a real user who's Emily. For example, I need her for this period of time. And Emily, I know for sure that I need her 100%. So I will just save this allocation as a hard one. And you can see that in our Gantt chart, everything displayed with different colors. In order not to get mixed up with them, we always have this legend right here, which show you what different colors means. So as I already went through, this blue bar means project timeline. In light purple, we display soft allocations, and in dark purple, we display hard allocations. So I just showed you like the first type of planning, which is kind of called like from top to bottom planning. This planning, as I said already, is planning when you do not have details, like enough details about your project, about your tasks, about what whom specifically you need for this project, and you just plan like at high level. But of course, you can use our planning for already like planned projects, which you already have in Activity Center right here. But I will again start with creating a new project. For example, it will be project construction, whatever. And we will start this project, I know, in January. Yeah, it will be open project, and I can already start creating tasks here. Task first task, second task, and I can add assignees here. So for example, I know that James will work on the first task, Michael will work on the second task. I can also specify in tasks dates, like I know that James will work from 8th January for 5 days, and this task will take him to finish 10 hours. We can go to the second task and set dates here as well. Like we kind of put in more details when we had in the first scenario. So here I put details, I put start and end dates for James and Michael, I put estimated hours, I created tasks, and we can go back to resources. In our resources, of course, we have granularity where we can display our projects daily, weekly, on month and monthly, and we can filter, of course, our projects. So my project was construction, it's right here. I can expand it right here, and we can see that James is assigned, and he already scheduled for 10 hours. I scheduled him right away, right now. And Michael, he is assigned to for 50 hours already. We can see these numbers right here. Also, 2 more bars appeared on our Gantt view, and we're able to observe these scheduled hours as bars right here. By seeing these bars, first of all, as project manager, you already know that James and Michael will work with you 100%. They are kind of already assigned to these tasks. They are booked. So maybe it's high time to create allocations. And these type of planning called from bottom to top, meaning that you already have detailed project, you already have assignees, you already have details of all tasks. And you just need to create allocations for these users. In order to create allocations based on scheduled hours, instead of doing it manually, of course, you can still do and create allocations manually, but we also have this generate allocations functionality, which perfectly works when you already have scheduled hours. You just need to click generate allocations button, and allocations will be created automatically right here. And I will do the same with Michael. We can also go to allocation and change status of allocation to hard. Again, showing our intention that I would like to work with Michael. Please do not take him to other projects. And again, here I can add unnamed resources if I'm considering some more in our January project. Also, one more functionality which I would like to show you right here, which you can also use, is then you are not sure whom to take to the project, what type of user, what type of person. If you have like 100 people with different with the same job role, and you are not sure whom to take based on their, for example, rate, based on their skills, based on their availability, we have absolutely amazing functionality, which is called recommended users. In order to use it, you just need to create and add a named resource right here to the project. And for example, you need to create a allocation, like, assume that I need accountant from 5th January to 26th for 100% of the time. Okay, for 50% of the time. And for my accountant, I would like to have only, for example, payroll skill. I don't need tax code, payroll. And then this button, find candidates, will appear. You can also reach it right here with replace with a user. But when you click this find candidates button, this pop-up with recommended users appear. And this is when our system checks users based on their job role matches, based on their skill matches, based on their availability and internal rates. So this module shows you which users you have on your platform with the specific job roles, with the specific skills, and you are able to allocate these resources. You are available, you're like able to replace your unnamed resources with real users. It also works in batch, so I can add like 3 unnamed resources, analyst, architect, create for them different allocations for different time, for example, for 70%. And again, I can return back to our find candidates module, and here I will be able to observe all our unnamed resources and candidate with whom I can replace them. So for example, here, accountant, Katie, job role match. Yes, she's accountant. Skills match. Yes, she has payroll skill. She's available for 100%, like she does not have any vacation in January, and her internal rate sounds fine for me. So I can click this checkbox and allocate her. But let's go through other resources. For example, David. Okay, David, he's not analyst, he is architect, but I need analyst. Let's check whom I can take instead of David. Maybe Philip. Okay, Philip is not also analyst. He's construction worker. Steve, still no. Maybe it's like sign for you as a project or resource manager that, hey, you do not have analyst. You need to hire analyst in order to be able to complete this project. So for now, we do not have analyst. What about architect? Brad? What about other users? Philip, still no. David, okay, David. He is architect, but this architect requires some skills which David, for example, does not have. So David is available for 100%. I will still take David and Katie. I checked them right here. I can allocate them. Using soft or hard allocations. Right now I will use just soft, and I will click allocate resources. What will happen? Our named resources automatically will be replaced with our David and Katie right here, and their allocations will appear here. So this is about projects, and this is about how you can create projects and how you can plan them. And I also would like to pay your attention that right here, we have 3 types of groupings in our resource planning functionality. And you're able not only to group by by project, but you also is able to plan and check your resources availability by resources and by job roles. So these groupings have different types of use, and they have kind of different purposes. So for example, when grouping by resources, you as a resource manager can observe whether your resource is overworking, underworking, like underloaded, or they loaded with work just perfectly. So for example, here I see a lot of red colors. For example, for David in January, I see that he is already allocated to some other projects. And I already allocated him to construction project. Seems it's not a good idea. He will be overloaded, I see in January with other projects. So maybe it's high time for me to delete this allocation. And in this case, David will be just fine. The same with James, he is overloaded. But what about Katie? In January, she has much more capacity when we allocated to her. So we allocated to her only 4 hours. Meanwhile, she's available for 40 hours. So this grouping is perfectly for you to check like work-life balance of your resources. You will be able to observe right from the first sight, right from these colors, whether your resources are fine or not, who are overloaded, who is not. Again, a reminder, we have this legend bar, so you're able all the time to observe meaning of each color. But I guess here it's pretty easy to understand that green, everything is good, yellow, people are underloaded, red, people are overloaded. And kind of the same thing we have in group by job role, but here we have these histograms, which shows how your job roles are doing. So probably this screen is really useful, for example, for human resource managers, recruiters, so they're able to observe that, for example, building engineer, they are like overloaded, meaning that we need to hire one more building engineer and divide this work between them two, instead of have one person who is all the time overworking. I have also filters turned on, but we can turn off filters, and then we will be able to observe analytics for the whole company. We'll be able to observe how many accountants we have, real accountants, and how many unnamed resources we already have created in our projects. I can expand these resources job role, and I can see that I have Katie. She's one accountant in my organization, but I need probably 3 more accountants. So
sorry, Olga. Sorry to interrupt here. I know we only have 5 minutes left here. We do have a few questions from our participants, and I was hoping if we can share that. So I'll review the question and maybe you can help explain that to our users. Is that good?
Yes, sure. Let's go.
Awesome. So one of the questions we have is to kind of reiterate on what's the difference between the scheduled and allocated hours?
Yeah, perfect question. Thank you, Martha. So scheduled hours are hours which we set up in usually in Activity Center, in tasks and activities. These are hours like estimated hours, meaning that users already assigned to specific tasks, and they most likely will work on these tasks. They are scheduled, they are booked 100%. What about allocations? Allocations we use just like placeholders or bookings, reservations of specific resources, and we kind of plan it, high-level planning. Like, for example, yeah, I need CAT team, let's say for 50 hours. And scheduled hours, I know that CATI will work for specific task for 10 hours. So scheduled hours are more specific hours assigned to tasks, and allocated hours just hours of allocations, of reservations. So this is like the main difference between these hours.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question we have is, what are the best practices or tips when dealing with constantly changing timelines to minimize efforts for changing dates at task level?
So I guess it's question more to our activity center and the way it works, but I think we kind of have this functionality in our activity center. Once you change date of the project, dates of our tasks can change automatically based on project dates. So I don't think it's kind of related to our resource planning functionality, but yeah, you can easily, of course, change dates of the project, and then tasks dates will be updated automatically in our activity center.
Yeah, so automatically, and also what I would recommend is having a fluid communication with your team members so that everybody is in the loops, is in the loop. And if, let's say, dates are changing, we always have the audit log in the activity or project details, where it also highlights timelines that have been changed. If you have notifications enabled, you will also get notifications regarding changing timelines, so that way everybody is on top of their activities and due dates. I hope that helps, but if you have additional clarity, feel free to let me know. You can also email our success, and we can happily set up a separate session with you to discuss these details. The other question we have is, how do we plan for a project that where the resource allocation varies every month? So for example, the project timeline is November through April. The developer may be 100% in November, 50% in December, and 100% in January, and so on.
Yeah, it's totally fine. You can create as many allocations for one resource as possible. Meaning, so for example, here for Emily, I have allocation for just some weeks in December, and you can again create another allocation in January, one more allocation in February, change allocation percentage, change hours, change allocation types. So yeah, you can adjust workload here in resource planning really flexibly, and you can manage workload of your resources here on a weekly, on a daily, or on a monthly basis.
Awesome. Perfect. And the last question we have here is the goal to have scheduled hours and allocated hours match at the project level? Or is the planning tab really only used at the planning stage, and then when tasks are populated, we no longer need to refer to the planning tab? For example, planning activities should never overlap with tasks, since it seems as though they are added and will be used to determine whether or not they are overallocated.
Thank you for this question. Yeah, so of course, in a perfect, in ideal world, it's really recommended that allocated and scheduled hours are the same. So if you allocated resource for like 8 hours per day, this resource needs to work 8 hours per day, and this resource needs to have tasks for 8 hours. But of course, we understand that in reality, it's not always possible to plan and allocate your resources like that. I might say that, yeah, planning works at initial step, perfectly at initial stages of the project, but also you can somehow maintain these allocations during the project. So for example, other project managers or resource managers can observe that this resource is booked, this resource working on this project, so I'm not able to take this resource. So allocated hours, I might say, of course, can be like just approximate estimate, while scheduled hours display specific estimates.
Yeah, and what I would probably also add to that is when you're kind of like adding to what Olga said, is it's really the purpose is to block that time so that in case in the future anybody else wants to use that resource, they know that during that time, say whether it's like January to March, our content writer or Emily, as an example in this case, she is already booked. Even though it's a soft allocation, she doesn't have like fixed scheduled hours, but she has been booked by another project manager during that time. So it really helps resource like the project managers and the resource managers to identify who are available to be added to projects and tasks during specific periods and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So as I said, you can already group by resources, you can filter. Emily, you observe her vacations here. You can even create vacations for her right here on this screen. And yeah, you will be able to observe on which project Emily has been booked already, and like whether you are able to proceed working with her or she's booked somewhere else. So yeah, I guess it's planning is really great in terms of visibility, how your resources manage the workload right now or in the future.
Awesome. And yes, the final question we have here, because I know we are running out of time, but yes, you can have multiple allocations for the same project for the same resource, as Olga had showed you. All you have to do is simply press shift and drag through the timeline, and you can create multiple allocations for the same user.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can even adjust allocations length right here by dragging and drop them. And again, you can edit and delete them and change the type, any type.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you everyone for your questions. These were great questions. And just to reiterate our upcoming workshops or upcoming webinar. Sorry, Olga, I'm just going to quickly share my screen here.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. All right, so here we go. So as I mentioned before, our workshops for January are still being planned. So we will let you know as soon as possible when they are confirmed. So you can go ahead and register for them. December 6th, which is tomorrow, we are doing our efficiency in focus, which is going to be a multiple spaces webinar. This is our new product feature that is bound to enhance your project management for the upcoming year. So if you haven't registered for it already, please go ahead and do so, and be sure to be blown away by this feature. And then lastly, thank you everyone for joining this year's webinars and the workshops. We thoroughly enjoyed your participation, and from what I understand, all of our clients have had a great time with the workshops, and they found it very informative. So thank you again. And if you have any questions, any concerns, or recommendations for future topics, please feel free to send in your requests at success@birdviewpsa.com. We are happy to share any insights, any ideas, and review or revisit any topics that you may want clarity on, because again, these sessions are designed especially for you. So we want you to have the most of it. So thank you again for joining us in today's session. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the year. Enjoy your holidays, and we will see you back again in New Year. Happy holidays, everyone. Take care. Bye.